We are Muskegon County at Work, spotlighting workers of local governments throughout our county, revealing what it takes to make our communities comfortable and safe. Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Muskegon County Municipalities at Work. Your host here, DJ Hilson, with yet another, I think, very sparkling conversation. Yeah, I say sparkling. Again, the whole purpose behind these podcasts is to really delve into a municipal government at all levels and help folks understand the pieces that make communities and government work, but more importantly, the people behind that. And so today is no different. Today, my guest is Dawson Romanosky. Did I get that right?
Romanosky.
Oski. Gosh darn it. You know, I try to run it through in my head, and sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't.
Absolutely.
But thank you for being with me today.
It's a pleasure.
So what I'd like to do, as I always do with my guests, is to talk a little bit about yourself. What got you here to Muskegon, and what you do.
So I grew up in Muskegon County. Went to Reese Puffer my entire school career. There I met my wife now. We're high school sweethearts. I went to Muskegon Community College for the first 2 years to pursue a degree in automotive. That was kind of my niche. And became a master mechanic there. Then continued my education at Ferris State University, where I got a bachelor's degree in automotive management. Then had some COVID issues that kind of came into play. My dream was to go work for the big three on the other side of the state. That's what Michigan's all about. And then with COVID, all internship opportunities were shut down. I had to find something that was essential. So dealerships were essential. I contacted a local dealer here and was able to get an internship work through them. So I stayed there and then continued a career there afterwards. Stayed there for about 5 years, and then there was an opportunity within the city of Muskegon. My wife has stayed with me. She found a job with a local employer here in Muskegon as well, and human resources. So we have just kind of stayed local. We have a 1-year-old daughter. So just over a year old now, and kind of settling into everything, and that's how we ended up here.
Fantastic. Well, it's always nice to talk to folks that are sort of lifelong residents, if you will, of Muskegon County. Because I think along of what we're going to talk about is your roles and responsibilities with the city of Muskegon, I think the other thing to highlight is that, it's okay to stay local.
Right.
Right? That there are opportunities to do career things right in your own backyard.
Absolutely. And it was interesting to me, a lot of, especially throughout high school and, even in my early years of college, there's so many people that I was around, I surrounded myself with were, man, we got to get out of here. It's this, and you see a lot of them come back and you realize the grass isn't always green. I mean, we've got a beautiful lake shore. We've got so many things that, a pretty low cost of living for, nice houses in comparison to where you go. You get out to the West Coast or East Coast, or you find a lot of places there. Not many places like West Michigan, that's for sure.
Well, as a transplant, I agree with you.
Yeah.
It is a little jewel that people need to know more about. So let's talk a little bit about, obviously, the automotive sector, I'll say the mechanical aspect of it, the guts, if you will, of what makes cars go.
Absolutely.
Sort of was your interest. And now it's morphed into something a little bit bigger than that.
Yes.
So talk about that.
So growing up, my dad always worked on vehicles. So that was where it started. I always found it interesting. And then I've always been told I had a gift of gab, kind of. I like to talk to people. And I realized that when I became a mechanic, I was like, man, if I do this every day, I'm going to lose my passion for the hobby of it. So then I had to look for opportunities that I could still do something related to this, but I didn't have to turn the wrench every day in and day out, and burn myself out of that. So I found, when I was still at the dealership, I found an opportunity to, talk to people and work with them. And then I kind of became the translator, to be able to speak, to a mechanic and, understand what they're going through and what they do day in and day out, and then relay that information to someone that might not have the mechanical knowledge that a mechanic does, and so it turned into like a translator for a lot of people at the dealership, and then with the city, it's really morphed into something where I talk to a lot of people in different roles and in different departments that don't understand what type of equipment it's going to take to get that job done. So to be able to talk to them and figure out how many, what equipment's going to be needed, how often it's going to be needed, what that maintenance looks like, how often we use it. It's really beneficial to have both sides of it. And the mechanics enjoy speaking with someone that knows what they're going through day in and day out. It's not somebody that's just like, well, fix the dang thing, will you?
Yeah, right.
They know what it's to talk to somebody that knows what it's like to get in there and deal with it. They respect that a lot.
So my understanding is that you sort of oversee part of your responsibilities with the city of Muskegon is you oversee the fleet vehicles.
Yes.
And I guarantee you there are going to be a lot of people that are going to watch this and go, "What are you talking about?" So what are we talking about when we talk about fleet vehicles?
So fleet vehicles. There's so many different realms of it. So in all departments of public works, there's different divisions. Like your highway division, your water department, parks department, things like that. So like it's going to be everything from the utility bed trucks that the water department takes out to replace a water meter, to the bulldozer that clears the sand off of Pier Marquette, in the parking lot. So we've got such a wide range. And then, the police vehicles for the city of Muskegon. So it's just such a wide range of what it can be. We have 550 vehicles and pieces of equipment that are in our realm of responsibility to maintain and purchase and update and keep all of those things new and operational. So it's quite a wide range.
So here, I always appreciate when I get to learn something new when I talk to folks. 550 pieces of equipment.
Yeah.
And if you broke that down, is the majority of that vehicles or is it more of a combination?
So we're between light duty and heavy duty trucks and vehicles. It's about 300 of the pieces of equipment and vehicles in that realm. The other things are going to be like the backhoes, the loaders, the specialty equipment that is needed, the leaf vacs for the parks department in the fall and the spring, the side-by-sides that plow and salt the sidewalks in downtown Muskegon. There's just so many different things that play into it. But the vehicles, I would say, are the majority of it, and that's what drew me in is because with my background in vehicles, and I'm still learning a lot of the equipments and the needs that the city has. But the vehicles are just what get us, get the people that can fix the problem and keep the city up and moving every day.
So how does it work then when it comes to maintenance? I mean, obviously, if people own vehicles and you're taking care of your vehicle, there's routine maintenance that happens.
Yep.
Every so many miles and whatnot. Is it the same for fleet vehicles? Is there a difference? What sort of is, how do you manage that?
So it depends on the vehicle or piece of equipment. A lot of times we will do miles depending on the use of the vehicle. Some of our vehicles are a little more extreme use conditions, like our police vehicles. We kind of look towards the hours on those vehicles. When a city cop car stays, it obviously stays within the city limits. It doesn't get a lot of miles racked up on it per day. But that vehicle, with all the equipment on board, it has to stay running to keep the batteries charged. So, you'll see engine hours that rack up a lot faster than what you would see in a normal vehicle. So we have to, take the information that we get and use, a case-by-case basis depending on the vehicle. So like some vehicles that are just moving, crews and equipment to and from job sites are going to be treated like a normal vehicle based on miles and time. And then your police vehicles and a lot of the equipment are going to be based on hours and, how often they're running.
And so if I understand your responsibility, then you are sort of overseeing all of that.
Correct.
All 550 pieces of equipment and the people that are using them on a regular basis.
Yeah, so the people that are using them, they have their own, like if, for example, the highway department will take the plow trucks out and plow the roads and salt the roads in the winter. And there's highway supervisors that oversee their people and give them the routes and things like that. So I oversee the mechanics that maintain them. And then I oversee the buying and selling of the plow trucks as they start to age. And, if one vehicle, one truck received much more use than another one, maybe we have to look at keeping one that's a little older that hasn't been used as much and replace one of the newer ones and shuffle around as things need.
So is it like one mechanic, sort of a jack of all trades deal, or do the various departments have their own assigned mechanic for their particular equipment?
So our mechanics are cross trained. They can maintain and do the work on almost all of the vehicles that we have. A lot of them kind of have their area of expertise. But if the guy that does all of the maintenance on the backhoes takes a week vacation or has an issue that comes up where he has to be off, then we have other guys that can step in and do the work to keep the fleet up and moving.
And how many mechanics are employed currently through the city?
So we have 5 mechanics that cover everything, and then we have it's a stockroom employee, so that he takes care and makes sure we have the parts on the shelf when needed, the filters, everything down to even the shovels that are needed for the parks department. So he overlaps from the mechanic side of it into some from broader areas, but that he's kind of encompassed in with the mechanics. He hangs out in our area and does a lot for the parts ordering and things like that.
So what as far as making sure, I mean, obviously it's important for each department that whatever equipment they're using is ready to go whenever needed, even sometimes on a moment's notice. What's it like on a day? I mean, have you ever had a chaotic day where it feels like you're putting fingers in dike holes because all of a sudden everybody's got issues and now you got to figure out how you're going to spread those resources?
It can get hectic, and we just have to prioritize of what needs to be addressed first, and make sure that we have those needs in place. Like in the wintertime when plow trucks are out on the road and the snowstorm's still coming, the piece of equipment that is for the water truck might get put to the side for a little bit so we can make sure that we've got a fresh scraper blade on this truck and get it out the door and then, pull in what we have to. But with that, I mean, everything's essential, in every department. So there's not really a lot of opportunity to say, well, we can wait until next week for that one because it's going to need to go out the next day. Right. Typically.
So when you have to replace a piece of equipment, what describe the process of that, and what your roles and responsibilities are.
So a lot of it is based on use, so if it's a piece of equipment that we use every day, it's something that we want to make sure that we keep up, and we want to replace that piece of equipment before we start to get to the major failures of it. Maintenance for our mechanics is one thing, but when we start to have components that fail and, could be a back-ordered part or something that's going to make the machine down for multiple days, that's when we can run into a problem if we only have one of that particular piece of equipment. So we try to replace those on a more regular basis. If it's something that maybe gets used on specialty occasions, or sometimes it can go 6 months and not be touched, those ones we start to see age a little bit more because they're just not something that is in the field working every day. But when we need it, we need it. So it's a balance of making sure that we have, the right equipment at the right time, and taking into consideration the budget that we get allocated every year of what that looks like. How much can we spend? With some of the pieces of equipment, I mean, we have certain trucks that are over $500,000 to replace. So when that year comes up, you have to look at your budget and know, okay, well, this year is going to be light in a lot of other areas because we have to make this big purchase.
Yeah, so let's talk a little bit about that, because I think sometimes people don't appreciate some of the advanced planning that goes into this particular line of work. Because you're right. I mean, we're talking fire trucks, right? I mean, fire trucks are not cheap.
Right.
Even some of the heavy machinery that you're talking about, not cheap, especially in today. So how do you advance plan for that?
So we have to, we kind of look at what our shelf life has been before, like how long we've kept the vehicle prior. And it's interesting because everything's changing and the quality of different things changes. The pump that was pumping, that we bought in the 60s to pump water, I mean, that thing, it might still be pumping water today. And then you buy a new one and it might only last 10 years just based on the internals of it and so many other failures. So we have to, rely on a lot of other things. But one thing that we've transitioned to now, and something that I've kind of brought the idea of, is looking at the resale value of what we have. So that way we can try to stay in a newer era of equipment. And try to stay more under warranty in a lot of our repairs and vehicles. if we've got vehicles that are 5 years old and then they're all out of warranty and then we continue to run them for another 5 or 10 years, we've got a lot of expense that, we incur due to maintenance, or if we're replacing transmissions or motors in some of these pieces of equipment. You start to wonder, man, could that money have been better spent if we had sold it when it was still worth something at the beginning and taken that money and what we would put into repairs towards a new one to make sure we've got something that's reliable and can make it out on the street every day.
So obviously, it sounds like you've got to, on these 5 mechanics, you got to rely on sort of their expertise and knowledge. Because I'm assuming those are some of the conversations that you're having with them, or they're bringing to your attention. Hey, this car or whatever, this piece of equipment, probably on its last leg. I mean, I can Band-Aid it here for a little bit, but we may want to think about doing something different.
Yeah, so we plan, like when we purchase a vehicle, we put an end of use date on it. So that way we know we plan to use it until this point, but then throughout our maintenance and inspection, so we put our hands on every piece of equipment at least twice a year. That way we can rotate through, we can do an inspection on it and see, is this something that everything looks like we're in good shape and we've got 2 or 3 more years on it? If, the budget starts to get tight at the end of a year, we can, we can push that until next year or 2 years down the road. Or this is something we had planned on in 2028, but it's 2025 and we need this today. So it's a lot of shuffle and shake at the end, but as long as we can maintain what our core is and the majority of them stick true to their life cycle, we're in good shape.
Right. Yeah. You're just relying on technology and basic mechanics, right? To make your predictions come true, essentially.
Absolutely. And a lot of preventative maintenance too. It helps to, it's nice to get the vehicle in the shop or piece of equipment in the shop and look it over and know okay, this is something that we can make work for a while longer, or, this is definitely something that we should look at replacement sooner rather than later. And looking at the warranty end date with a lot of things, like I said, that a lot of equipment and vehicles are backed by some type of warranty from the start. If we can look at when that end date is and we can base some of the information on that to where we can save the expense of repair on it, it helps us quite a bit.
So when you're preparing, I'm assuming you're part of the budget process every year for these areas. Are you working with the supervisors of the various departments? How does that process work for you?
So we work together depending on what the needs are. If there's I'm trying to think of a piece of equipment to use as an example. If the highway department talks to me and says that they're going to be doing a lot of more road construction this year than in years previous, or they're going to be paving more so than years previous, we can look at, all right, what is that equipment needed for that? And we can get a list of equipment of, in this fiscal year, we're going to be using these pieces of equipment more than we have in the past 2 or 3. And we can look at those pieces of equipment to determine, all right, do we need to upgrade any of those before we get to that season? What does that look like? What's the lead time if we were to order one of those? Do we have to change our plan of this project to move a year down the road because we need a new one of these? There's so many different things to take into consideration.
Yeah, there's a lot of moving parts there, Dawson. I won't lie to you. That's pretty impressive to kind of keep all that straight. But I guess, what I'd like you to, and you kind of have commented a little bit, but I want to delve a little bit deeper. Certainly, your job is made easier based on the cooperation, collaboration of the various departments that you serve, right? So talk to us a little bit about that. Why is that so very important for this?
So, the other departments are the ones that are out using the equipment every day. So, they're the ones that are, digging the hole in the ground, replacing the water main, mowing the grass, picking up the leaves at the cemetery. So they know, they know how much the equipment gets used. They know what it goes through every day. And that information is useful for us to know what kind of wear and tear we expect out of the equipment. And Mother Nature plays a role in it too. If we get windstorms and we've got to clean up brush, or take the bucket truck out every day for months on end to clean up the branches, there's things that are unpredictable. But knowing and working with the departments that are out doing it every day, they can let us know what their needs are, and we can make it happen.
Let's talk a little bit about, I'm glad you mentioned natural disasters, because it wasn't too long ago, city of Muskegon, along with other municipalities, had some pretty major cleanup based off of windstorm and old trees and whatnot. Did you have to go beyond, just the city for help? In other words, state, federal partners, and if you did, can you describe how that works?
So in my role, I don't have a lot of dealings with beyond that. It's just the equipment that we have on hand. I know that they were working with the state level on some of the funding for that to see what the cost was for the extra cleanup and the overtime that was worked by the DPW workers to make sure that the roads were clear and the branches were trimmed. But as far as my role in that, I mean, it was making sure that the equipment was ready to go when those guys needed it all hours of the night, and making sure that my mechanics were ready to come in if they needed to do something to that piece of equipment at 8:00 at night, that we had the people there ready to do it.
Well, it required, obviously you went above and beyond the day-to-day, right?
Absolutely.
I mean, that happens. Mm-hmm. And if crews are going to work, longer than an 8-hour shift, 12, 24 hours, that equipment is going to see a little bit different work life essentially than it's normally used to, right? And so you're still responsible for being ready if necessary.
Absolutely.
Talk to me about, as technologies change and engines and things get really complicated, especially the more computer-driven they become. What sort of continuing education, if you will, do you do or that you offer your mechanics? Because obviously, what you learned, 5 or 6 years ago is going to be different today and even 5 or 6 years in the future.
So all of our mechanics are ASE certified, and that's the top level for mechanics. So, and they have to renew that certification every 5 years. So every 5 years they go, and on those tests, there's different, the questions are modern day, taking in the technology that's been added since the last test. And there's study guides that we have for the guys, and they go through that every 5 years to make sure they stay on top of it, to know all of the new technology. We work closely with the dealers in the area too that repair the equipment and the vehicles. They work really well with us if we have questions on, hey, we haven't seen this before. We bought this new truck. We're doing this. Can you help us out here? Like, can you point us in the right direction? Have you seen this before? Can you get us this diagram or things like that? So we've got some really good, partners in the area that help us out.
So is it safe to say, Dawson, that any piece of equipment that has the City of Muskegon logo on it, you're somehow have your hands in that?
In some way, shape, or form, yes.
And again, I go back to that number 550. I mean, that's nothing to sneeze at. And again, all the way from a grass trimmer, to the big plow trucks, as you described.
Right.
That's sort of the spectrum I see in my head, anyways.
Yep. Yeah, it's interesting when you think. I mean, there are things that I still see it, and it's like, oh yeah, that's us, isn't it? And you just don't even realize it as they're coming through the shop, and the attachments for different pieces of equipment that are involved in that you don't. There's just so many different things. We have like a brush for the front of it. It's a trackless mower, and we put brushes on it to clear off the bike path. And it's one of those things where we got to replace the brushes on it, 3-4 times a year, just from wearing down on the concrete. But it's the only piece of equipment that we have that can get through the bike path and can make sure it's clear of debris for people to ride their bikes down. And it's one of those things that you don't even think about until you're sitting there buying the third set of brushes in a summer, going, oh wow, we do use this thing, and it's amazing what it offers for people too.
Well, yeah, I think folks, again, watching this should understand that the bike path doesn't clean itself off.
Right.
That it takes equipment, it takes people to make that happen.
Absolutely.
So let me ask you this question. In the next 5-10 years, what do you see as one of the bigger challenges that you might face? And in my mind, I'm thinking, does robotics ever? Are we going to get some point in the future where things that are run by humans now might be more robotic? Not saying that we're going to have robots running around, but again, we see sort of that technology starting to surface a little bit.
Yeah, so we've actually had some vendors approach us about like robotic lawnmowers for like extreme angles, when there's grassy hills alongside the highway to make sure to better protect people. It's interesting. Right now, the price point just doesn't make sense for us. It would be a lot of investment for not a lot of gain, and it's something that I think in the future we could see something like that for certain areas of it. A big thing that's been talked about is electric vehicles and all of the impact that they'll have. The city has purchased a couple hybrid vehicles recently for employees that are just like building maintenance, that are just driving around from City Hall to the DPW to different areas where there's buildings around just to help increase fuel economy. But I think with the climate that we're in, I think it's a long ways away before we see a plow truck with a battery in it. But I mean, with the technology, who knows?
Yeah. I mean, it's interesting. It will be interesting to see what happens. And again, it just makes your job a little bit more challenging if you got to start dealing with, lithium and ion batteries and what have you.
Yeah, and making sure that we have the proper training and technicians and the proper equipment to handle those things. It's not just the purchase of the equipment; it's the tools and the training to work on them when the time comes.
So I'm going to ask a question. I'm going to violate my lawyer code of conduct here. Where I'm going to ask a question where I don't necessarily know the answer, but I'm curious because you're a car guy. Mm-hmm. Any side projects? You working on anything in the garage that you can talk about? So
I'm a Jeep guy.
Okay.
So that says enough there. So I have a 77 Jeep Wagoneer that I've been working on for quite some time, that I've put a modern engine in, a 5.3 out of a newer Chevy pickup truck that it's kind of been my toy, tinkering with it here and there, something to get ice cream with on the weekends.
Nice. Well, in talking with guys like yourself who are really into the auto mechanics, and I tell you, I have such great respect for you, because even today when I try to go replace a headlight, it's impossible. You can't do it. And
they're making it harder every day.
You can't do it. You have to actually take it in somewhere to get it done. So I have a fond appreciation for those of you guys that can actually get in there and really get it done. That's why I asked that question. I was curious. Well, Dawson, thank you. Obviously, thank you for the work that you do for the city. I think, again, people don't recognize that. In fact, as I was coming here today, I saw the lawn cutting crew out there cutting the median on Shoreline Drive.
Yep.
Working that. And people don't appreciate that. It's nice that we got folks that are driving those trucks, plowing our streets, doing all those things. Yeah. But that stuff breaks down. It needs replacement, and we got to have people that know what the heck they're doing in order to do that. So thank you for doing that for the city of Muskegon. Appreciate it.
Absolutely. It's my pleasure.
Well, folks, that ends another episode. I hope that you gained a deeper understanding about certainly some really important features that are certainly happening in the city, but are happening in all the municipalities. The streets get plowed, grass gets cut, all those things happen, and it doesn't happen without people like Dawson making sure that stuff works every day. Until the next time, have a great rest of your day. And again, this project, these things don't happen without the ingenuity of one Mike Vogus.